Marketing is not alone in generating an ROI off the media spends. As a matter of fact, they're probably the smallest part of the overall process in creating an ROI. So we want to talk about how do we ensure that the departments across a medical practice are actively involved, not only through data and integration of data, but also automation and leveraging automation as much as possible to drive ROI to the fullest. So when we think about the challenges of generating marketing ROI or tracking marketing ROI and the dependencies that we have across an organization, what we're focused on, the solution that we're trying to create for our practices as marketing executives, and most importantly for our patients, is an ROI in the relationship. And creating an ROI in the relationship between a practice and a patient has never been more difficult. Obviously, patients with the digital transition demand 24/7 access. They demand a high participation rate in their investment with your practice. So that creates a lot of challenges. So what we want to focus on today is how do we leverage data and automation across the patient, across the departments, and across the practice as a whole to create a return on investment for both parties, that being the patient and the practice. The return on investment for the patient is an outcome that exceeds their expectations and their needs from a health standpoint. And the ROI from a practice is the ability to scale their practice, grow their practice efficiently, and truly generate an ROI, not just from the marketing, but from their investment in the practice. And the way that we do that and the way that we see that working for everybody is integrating data and automation across the entire practice. So why is understanding patient acquisition ROI a problem? This has been a huge problem. It's a problem in every industry. Understanding ROI from a marketing standpoint has always been difficult. Why is it a challenge with medical practices? Well, medical practices, first, as we know, as an industry, healthcare is one of the slowest adopters of the digital transformation. And what that problem, that lack of adoption, has created a huge amount of siloed data across the typical medical practice. You've got practice management systems that aren't connected with your communication systems, whether it be your VoIP or your texting solutions, your fax solutions. The information isn't talking, allowing you to better understand who you're communicating with. Referring providers are sending faxes in. They don't get into a practice management system. They get into perhaps a VoIP system, and they're being drug out and pulled and opened up and looked at and hopefully followed up with. No automation, no understanding of where they're coming from. Marketing's operating in a silo with all of its data trapped in Google Analytics and Facebook and Meta and all of these places and the website, and not being able to match that data up to the success of a patient's experience creates challenges. RCM data, not understanding RCM data and how it relates to the sources of traffic and which patients bring in the best RCM experience for the practice. Merchant processing, separated, understanding where payments are actually coming from. So all of these key components in driving patient acquisition and actually understanding the return on investment, they live in separate areas. They're fragmented. They're completely siloed. And without attaching this data together into an understanding of the patient acquisition process, not only can your practice and your marketing team not only can your marketing team not understand ROI, but the rest of your practice cannot understand the impact that it has on the ROI for the marketing team. So how does it work? Why are we here? Well, this is patient acquisitions. ROI has interdependencies within an organization. Inbound patients comes from marketing and comes from referrals, right? But you can't move all the way past that to acquisition, which is where the ROI begins to be measured from a revenue standpoint, without understanding everybody else that's involved. It is truly, truly a team effort, and the interdependencies are significant. And if you can't measure them, you can't understand them. If you can't understand them, you can't optimize ROI. So it has to be a complete practice effort. And that means the practice as a whole has to have the data. Inbound patients come in, they speak with a contact center or a front desk coordinator. Schedule utilization, schedule availability impacts that contact center's ability to schedule somebody. When the person does come in, the experience and the protocol that they go through with the provider's ability to properly administrate insurance verification creates RCM issues. So you have interdependencies there. And then ultimately, what is being done at an administrative level to bring those patients back, and not just generate an income once from them, but from a lifetime value perspective, which ultimately should be measured against ROI. So what does this look like at a more objective level? When you look at this at a more objective level, just understanding where marketing lies in what I consider an innate process. Acquiring a patient, acquiring a customer is innate like gravity, okay? It is the same thing every time. Whether it's a patient or a customer, there's the same process. There needs to be an inquiry, some type of inbound activity that occurs. There needs to be a meeting. That could be a virtual meeting. It could be a consultation. It could be over the phone. There is a meeting, a consult, a scheduled appointment. That appointment has to be attended. There has to be some type of treatment, which is going to drive an outcome and an experience. That treatment and outcome needs to be paid for by the patient, and then you need to bring them back in. There is a very difficult, or it is really, really difficult to try to change this process. Could you potentially do some things with insurance verification or charges and payments up front to give yourself a better revenue cycle management process? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the interdependencies and the innate process of inquiries, scheduling, attendance, treatment, revenue, and recall is the same, not only for patients, not only for all the different specialties, but basically for any business in and of itself. So patient acquisition, customer acquisitions like gravity, it is an innate process. So patient acquisition data workflow landscape, how does this all come together, and what are the things your practices can do to ensure that you can combine this data? Data integration needs to incur, okay, data integration here, referrals, marketing data, patient communication data, practice management data, charges data, needs to incur at inception of the patient inquiry. Inception occurs at the contact center or at the front desk and with your communication technology. So you've got to ensure that you're integrating your referral data, your marketing data at inception of the patient inquiry with your practice management, with your contact center or with your front desk. And then you have to integrate it. You have to be able to analyze it, and you have to be able to automate solutions to your teams in order to generate the ROI. So if you wanted to truly look at the workflow to accomplish the right solution, you have to integrate this historically fragmented data into a centralized data warehouse. You need to tie it together to understand who is the patient, where did they come from, did they attend, what is the treatment, who is the provider, did billing occur properly, and then ultimately make sure that they're coming back. And that's the automation that's got to be made available to your practice to create a continuous improvement to your marketing in order to drive the highest ROI up front, but also ultimately through patient lifetime value. Integration, centralized data warehouse, analytics, automation. Ultimately, when you integrate department data and automation, you're going to drive the highest ROI for the patient, giving them the best treatment and the best preventative outcome, ultimately ensuring their health, but you're also going to drive practice ROI. So integrate your data, integrate automation, leverage it as a team, and you're going to have the best ROI, not only for your patients, but for your practice.